Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. Today we are doing another step-by-step acrylic painting tutorial. I'm going to take you from start to finish. We're going to go through various tips along the way. I'll talk about different things and just lead you through this painting. If you haven't checked out my other acrylic painting tutorials, I encourage you to do so. I'll link the playlist in the description so you can easily find it. If you want to see all the materials that we're using, basically all the list of paints that we're using, I will put that in the description as well. All of them will be Liquitex Basics, and one of them will be Artist Loft Level 1. So they're all student grade paint. Let's jump into this one. Alright, here's our blank canvas. This one is 12 by 12 square canvas. You can use any type of square canvas. You could actually even do this one on a landscape type canvas. You would just have to change a little bit of what you're doing. So for this one, we're going to start with the background, work our way to the foreground. I'm going to start with this bigger brush, and when you're filling in big spaces like backgrounds, you often want to use larger brushes because it just makes it a lot easier and quicker to blend and just fill in that whole space. If I was trying to do that with this smaller round brush, it would take a very long time. So choice of brush is very important. I could probably even use a bigger one than this, but that's okay. We'll stick with this. So for our background, we're going to want a little darker towards the top here, and it's going to get a lot lighter as we work our way down to as we work our way down to the horizon line. I'm just going to give myself a rough estimate where I want that horizon line to be. One of my rulers, I'll grab this one. My daughter drew all over this one. And so as you can see, 12 inches. You can do the rule of thirds, and you can have the horizon line start roughly 4 inches up if you'd like. I'm actually going to go a little bit less. For this painting, I'm going to go roughly about 3 inches up on both sides. And I'm just going to connect those just so I have an idea of where I need to paint down to. Okay. So for this guy, we're going to use some deep violet. This is a warmer purple. I might use a little bit of rose pink, probably not a whole lot. I'm going to use some Naples Yellow Hue, and I'm going to use some Parchment. Parchment's just like an off-white. As you can see here, I'll hold it against the white. Just an off-white. So I'm going to put some of this down here. I made two separate piles because I'm going to want to use a little bit for mixing first with this purple. Now I'm not going to put a lot of the purple down because I really want to tone it down. And I'm going to put a little bit of white down because I'm going to lighten up some of this stuff as well. This white's a mess. For mixing, I like to use little palette knives. Like this, I've got a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to take some of this, mix it in with this purple. Maybe even a little bit more. And that's good for that. I'm going to take some of this with the purple that I have on my palette knife. And a little bit more of this parchment here. I'm probably going to need more of this. Okay, that's what I'm going to do to start. So I'm going to take my bigger brush here, get some of this purple, and we're kind of going for a round-ish aura in the back here. And so I'm just going to put a little bit of this in each of the corners to start. It'll work its way a little bit up to the top there. Now from there, we're going to work on blending a little bit. So I'm going to start just below and then working my way back into that purple. So working my way up and then back down in. And I'm going to extend this into the middle there as you can see. I'm just keeping the brush strokes in the direction of how I want the sky to look. So more rounded here, because that's what I'm kind of going for. Now with acrylics, you have to work a little bit fast for blending to be nice and smooth. That's why I think it's important for this part to be done with one of these larger brushes. I'm going to take a bit more of this. Ooh, I had a chunk of something on there. Again, just blending this in. Now I'm going to take just Parchment here. My palette knife must have been dirty. If you feel like your brush has purple on it from before and it's interfering with what you're doing now, you can always wipe it off or rinse it off. For wiping things off, I like using old clothes. Okay, what I want to do here is I want to get a bit more of this Parchment, because I like what it's doing for us. But I do want to mix in, I guess I can just wipe this off. Mix in a bit of this white here with it. Maybe just a hint of this yellow. And we're just going to get slowly lighter and lighter the closer we get to this horizon line here. Alright, I feel like the extra paint on my brush is now interfering with what I want to do, so I'm going to rinse this off. And I'm going to need more white. And a bit more of this Parchment out here as well. Okay. Let's take this remaining white and mix it in there. Now as I get towards this bottom part here, I'm going to add just a bit more color back into the edges. And then in the middle, I'm going to keep it lighter. Just a little bit more white. Okay, there's our background. That's all we're going to do for our background. Well, I guess the sky background. Now we're going to work into our background of mountains / hills. And for that, I'm just going to grab some of this Cadmium Orange Hue. This is very bright, as you can see there, and so I am going to tone this down quite a bit. I'm going to take just a little bit on my brush there. Sorry, on my palette knife, mixing that in with some of that Naples Yellow Hue and white that we had going on over here. I'm just warming it up a little bit. It's a little bit of a cool orange. Okay, if you want to wipe this off, you can, but since it was pretty much just using white, I'm not very worried about it. I'm going to take some of this, and we're just going to create some mountains here. Now you can really make them however you would like. I'm just going to start down here, work my way up right there, maybe up to a peak right there. Back down, and I'm just going to brush downward from the mountaintops. And it's just going to work into that white that was already there, and maybe leave a slightly bolder line above, which is totally fine with what we're doing here. Don't want that to mess up what I'm doing here. Okay, do some on this other side here. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm actually going to take a little bit of this raw sienna, put a little bit down there, grab a little bit and mix it in. You can see that's just making it more saturated. Now these mountains are going to be in front of the previous ones, and so I'm going to overlap a little bit. And we're just creating depth by doing this here. So you don't want to cover up fully what you've done behind. You want to leave some of that visible. Okay, and we're going to do that one more time. And I'm going to add a little bit of this orange back into it as well. Even a little bit more of each of these. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to do another layer. Actually, let's take some of this stuff here. Perfect. I like that better. Hey, bringing that in a bit more in front of this other one. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this deep violet. Sorry, that's just my air conditioner turning on. It's very hot this week. Some of that deep violet, and I guess I'll wipe this off. Just a little bit of black. If you're using black, remember it's very, very powerful. And actually I want to use a little bit of white with this as well, just to tone it down that extra bit as well. There we go. I like that. It's going to wipe this off. I'm not going to really rinse it. I don't feel the need to. But we're going to use this color now and add another layer in front. It's blending in with a bit of what's behind it. If you wanted to wait and let it dry, you could. Then it won't blend in with what's going on behind, but I'm just kind of going for it here. Alright, we're going to stick with this same idea, this color here, but I'm going to add some of this orange to it that I had going before. And I'm going to load my brush up with this. This is going to be our first layer of reflection on our water. And I'm going to grab, I got some white here, take some of this white, take some of the yellow, take some of that. It's exactly the color I need, but I feel like I don't have enough of it there. So I'm going to need some more white. Take this. I'm just going to brush it out here first, and then we'll blend it into what we already did in just a second here. Alright, so as you're blending it in, similar to what we did up there, just go lightly into it. That's not very lightly, but the canvas is a little bit rough in that spot, so I'm just trying to get it into all those spots. Okay, now the last thing I want to do as of now with the waters, I'm just going to take some of this black and add just a little, one more little spot on each of these sides of where the mountains are even closer. Than what they were before. And I'm just going to rinse this off. Okay, I am going to let that part dry for a minute here, and then I'm going to go back in and we can start working on our tree. Okay, so this is pretty well dry there now. I'm just going to take our Mars black here, and this is really all we're using for the rest of the painting. Well, that's a lie, actually. There's one other thing we're going to do. I'm going to put down some black. So for this tree, I'm going to start first with this round brush, and then I will use a smaller, also round brush, for some of the smaller branches, and in the end I might even use another one of my palette knives for the really skinny branches. those are nice tools to use as well. So I want the base of this tree to be below what we've done here, and I'm actually just going to go over this space a little bit here because that kind of got blended out. Same with this side. Okay, so I'm going to want this to start in the middle, and it's going to start a little bit below our horizon line. So let's actually just double check here where our middle is. So the middle is right here. So I'm going to go out this way a bit. And this is going to come up. And we want the actual tree to be starting up in here. And we'll come down on this side. Down. And this is going to flatten out over here a little bit more than the other side. So we are going to come back and add a little bit of reflection of this in the water in the end. But I'm just going to leave that part for now. Alright, so as you can see on the tree, we've got a ton of branches here. We're going to have our main trunk working its way all the way up, and the leaves right at the top here, and then the rest of the leaves are going to be kind of circled around and in from there. So I'm just going to start with the trunk of this tree. So I do want it to be a little bit thick at the bottom, right? If you have it too thin at the bottom, then your branches have to get small very quickly. This is kind of the main branching point right here where we're going to have a lot of stuff coming off of it. And so I'm probably going to do a time lapse for a little bit here. I'm just going to be adding a bunch of branches off of it. Now, you don't want to make anything too symmetrical or too perfect, I guess you could say, because nature and trees, when you look at them, they're not. Not that we're going for something super realistic, but we don't want it to look super fake either, right? And so I'm going to have branches weaving up. We don't want to make too straight of lines. We want them to curve as we're going through. And so I guess I'll just film here, for example, this main bough that I have going up to the top is going to curve back this way. I'm going to have it curving back up here. And I am going to be having it get smaller throughout. There's a tiny little wet spot there. That's interesting. It's going to curve back, and we're going just up like that. That's quite high. I don't want to touch the top. But there, that's our first one. You can see how it weaves, it gets smaller. Now off of this, we can add other branches coming up, right? So again, we want them to curve. I will use that smaller brush here as well. I just wanted to do a couple examples here for you. So I'm going to have a bigger branch coming off of that, and you're just going to work your way all the way around. I'll come back and stop the time lapse when we are going to be doing the leaves here. Okay, once you got all your tree branches where you want them, then we can start into the leaves. You'll notice that I just used this brush the whole time. The tip of it was fine enough that I was able to just load it up and go through. I didn't really need to switch to that one, so I didn't bother. I'm going to continue to use this brush though for the leaves, and I'm just going to put a little bit more black down here, because all I'm going to do for these leaves is just load up mainly the end of that brush, and because it's a round brush, if I just press in and pull back a little bit, it makes a nice little leaf shape. And you can do smaller ones, and then you just press harder and pull back. You can make bigger ones there as well. So I'm just going to go through and add the leaves of various sizes. Obviously they're going to be the densest on the outside, as you can see in the picture, and then we will put some leaves throughout the middle as well, just not as many. And I'm just going to do, like I said, just different sizes, some bigger ones, some smaller ones, and just go through there. So I'll do another little time lapse here to show that. Okay, I feel like I've got the leaves where I want them, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go in and add in a little bit of a reflection here into our water. So I'm going to get some of this purple back out onto our palette, put some of that down here, mix in some black and some white. Now we just want it to be darker than what we already have going on there already, so this is definitely going to be darker. Could probably afford a little bit more black and white just to tone it down just a little bit. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I'm still just going to use this round brush that I was using, And I'm just going to go underneath of the island here. It's going to come up a bit. Just mirroring what we did for the top of the island. And that tree trunk is going to come out here. And it's just going to go up and off the canvas there. Then what we're going to do is over here, we're going to create a few of these branches coming back down. And same with on this side. But what I want to do with that is take a little bit of this parchment here. This is kind of the color that we already had there underneath. And I'm just, with this color, I'm just going to go in along the edges and just do a little bit of blending, just bringing it in and out horizontally, as you can see there. Because it's not going to be a perfect reflection into this water. It's going to be blended out a bit. And same with where these branches are. We're going to do that same idea and just blur those out just a little bit so they're not so defined. And that's all that we need to do for it. If you want to adjust anything, now is a great time to do that. And now is also a great time to sign your painting. If you want to sign it at all, you don't have to. For signing, I often use full name, just my last name, initials. Sometimes I put the year, and I always use a color that I've been using throughout this painting. So I'm going to use this darker purple that I've got going on here. And I'm just going to sign it with my last name. And I like to do the year, so do a little apostrophe. It's 2024, so I'll do 24 there. And we can wipe that off and rinse it off. And there we go. Thank you for joining me here today. If you followed all the way through to the end, I'd love to see your final product. You can comment on my social media, send me a message, whatever works best for you. If you haven't checked out my other step-by-step acrylic painting tutorials, I'll link that playlist for you to find it as well. Follow along with those ones. Give me some suggestions for new ones if you'd like to see something specific. We'll see you next time here on Brian Sloan Artist.